Hey, everybody. Happy Wisdom Wednesday. I pray that you're having a wonderful, intentional, constructive, amazing day. Happy hump day, happy midweek, whatever it is that you want to call it. It is a great day to be alive. My name is Dr. Wanita Mercer, and I am the founder and chief heart leader at Leap My Heart Executive Coaching and Consulting. And what you're watching is episode number 2 of a 3-part series called no, not 3-part series, more of a 3-episode series. Yeah, a 3-episode series called Alignment and Balance in Executive Leadership. So, yes, I'm talking to my C-suite leaders. I'm talking to the executive leaders. I'm talking to middle managers. Anyone who's aspiring to be in any of those positions, you need to watch this as well because what we're talking about is what's really going on. We're talking about the struggles, the challenges that we're facing with being misaligned and being out of balance, okay? Regarding our purpose, regarding our calling, regarding our mission that God has given us to complete. And when we're out of alignment, when we're not in balance, how we have to deal with the consequences of that frustration, feeling overwhelmed, feeling tired, feeling like we're at our wits' end, as if we have nothing left to give. And God does not desire that for any of us. Okay. When He created us, not only did He create us to work, but He created us to work in His presence. And He also had the intent of us being fulfilled and having rest. So that's what we're talking about. Yesterday, we talked about alignment in executive leadership, and then today we're focusing on balance in executive leadership. What is it? How do we achieve it? Okay. So I'm glad that you're with me today, but you know what I want you to do before we get started, and that is to engage with me by liking this video, loving this video, okay, sharing it on your timeline, so that your friends, coworkers, other leaders can see it. But also tag some people that you know who will be blessed by this video, who've been praying for an answer, who've been praying to God for wisdom, who have been saying, enough is enough. Something has to give. I don't know exactly what it is, but I need help identifying it. This is it. This is the answer to your prayer, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today is identifying the things in our life that has to change. It has to give. Okay, enough is enough, and it's within our power to decide that. Okay, and so this is going to help somebody, and when it does help you, let me know. I would love to hear from you, and then also comment. Let me know that you're here. Say hello. Send a wave. Um, also, post your questions. Also, add information as well. Be a part of my learning community. That you join in the conversation and help impart wisdom to others as well, and then react to the things that I say, the things that you love, the things that you don't love. React to it all. I just want you to engage with me. And then lastly, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for supporting my YouTube channel. But what I also would love for you to do is to subscribe, to not just be a spectator, but to be someone who is a supporter and partnering with me. On this mission that I have to spread love, to spread wisdom to executive leaders. So do me a favor by subscribing to my page, Lead My Heart 2022. And then also ring that bell, okay? Click that bell so that you can get notifications of when I post new content so that you don't miss anything, okay? Because this is good stuff. And we all love good stuff, right? Not the stuff that's going to bring us down or make us feel inadequate, but the things that are going to lift us up and help remind us that we are enough and that everything that we need to fulfill the call that God has given us is inside of us. And if it's not inside of us, it's certainly within our reach. Okay. All right. So let's get to today's content. And again, we're talking about balance in executive leadership. So again, yesterday we talked about alignment and executive leadership. I'm not going to Spent a lot of time on trying to recap all of that. So please go back and watch episode number 1 if you missed it. Okay. It's still on social media at Lead My Heart 2022 on, let's see, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Okay. So check that out. So why balance? We talked about, alignment, the fact that our purpose is our anchor. And today we're talking about balance because we need both. It's not just the alignment. You can have great alignment in your what we call your personal life, and we're going to talk more about the personal versus work life in a minute. And you can have alignment in your work life, but it can still be out of balance, whereby you're putting so much energy into one more than the other. Okay, and that puts a strain on you as a person, and that's not what we want. But the reality is here, and I'm going to zoom in, 59% of executives and managers are working longer hours post-pandemic. Yikes, y'all. We were already working ourselves to death before the pandemic. And my hope and prayer was that coming out of the pandemic, which we're still coming out of it, right? We're still in it, was that through this, on the other side of this, we would have a better grasp on work and personal balance. That we would slow down in order to do more. To do more what? To do more meaningful things, to be more reflective and intentional with our strategies. That we would just slow down to take in life, to take in the things around us, to really see people, to really see the beauty of creation, to see the trees, to see the sky, to just take it in. And we're not doing that. As a matter of fact, what we're seeing is the opposite of that. With remote work, yes, it gives you more flexibility. Yes, you can work at home in your t-shirt and your jammies and, whatever else you want to work in. Um, and be more comfortable doing it at home. But what we also see is, gosh, we really are not too good at cutting it off. We're not so good at come 5 o'clock or whenever your regular end of day would be, which to be honest, for executives is a lot later. It's more like 7, 8, 9 o'clock, if we're honest. And then most of us who are executives within the quote unquote workplace, within the realm of that, are still leaders in the community too, because leadership just doesn't stop, right? That's our calling. And so we just naturally kind of gravitate to other areas of our lives where we're leaders too, whether it be church, whether it be at a community center, whether it be at a nonprofit. Maybe it's a business you're running on the side as well. The leadership really doesn't stop. And so what we're seeing is, even outside of the main job we have, y'all, we're still going, and even working longer hours. Okay. And let's be honest, a lot of that too, even though depending on what type executive position you have, depending on the organization you're in, we know that executives are getting paid at wide ranges. Okay. Not everyone is balling. Um, and got stock options like that. Let's be real. And some executives are entrepreneurs. Okay. And so that's going to look like different things to different people. But we also see is that kind of regardless of what your salary looks like, um, people are experiencing more hardship because the cost of living has gone up, you know, mortgages, all of that. Buying cars, everything has gone up. And so people are looking for ways to have multiple streams of income, or to not depend on one stream of income as their only income. Okay, as we learned through the pandemic, that was one lesson I think we all got pretty well, is to not put all your eggs in one basket. And so even people who have the ability to do that are still being careful to not do that, if you will. And so that's also adding to the additional work hours. Okay, so there are many different reasons. I just wanted to kind of give some context here that all of it just isn't from one place, but it could also be from other decisions or other commitments that we have. Okay, because like I said, leaders, we just naturally gravitate to other leadership positions. Okay, so let's look at some other stats here. In addition to the 59% of executive managers and other executive leaders and other managers who are working longer hours now, what we're also seeing is what we talked about yesterday. Okay, 66% burnout. Okay, 76% are overwhelmed. 59% are overworked, y'all. And 72%, okay, of managers and execs feel pressured to deliver. What we have to understand is that, y'all, we got to sound the alarm. This is not good, okay? Of course, it's not good for the person, but it also isn't good for our society. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for our schools. It's not good for our neighborhoods. It's not good for our life as a whole. And I say that to say that sometimes to talk about the individual isn't enough. I wish it was enough to to kind of get that level of emergency or sense of emergency that we need. But let's be honest, when we look at data, people want to see things on a bigger scale. Well, here it is. And the fact is that this pandemic of burnt out and ready to walk away and throw your hands up, that's a pandemic that's killing more people than COVID-19 and killing more things. Okay? Burnt out is killing not only people by suicide, as we see workplace suicide increasing, which please, if anyone, for any reason, is having those types of feelings, please seek counseling, get help, and I will definitely put that information with this video in the caption of people that you can call. But we're seeing more workplace deaths by suicide because of the work environment or because of things happening within the workplace. When people quit and walk away, no, they're not losing their life, but you know what? Dreams are dying. Perhaps that business they would have started won't get started because they're burnt out from the current work that they're doing. Marriages are casualties, okay? Um, Relationships with children are casualties. It goes on and on and on. And now with the Great Resignation, with people quietly quitting, all kinds of things, as we see in the workplace, the Me Too movement, all these things, workplace violence, all these factors are going into this pot of just people being overwhelmed and just ready to walk away. And because they have walked away, it's just like everywhere you go now, there's a long line. You having to wait because there's few workers, and then the workers who are there, they're getting more and more overwhelmed because they're the ones who actually showed up. They're having to take on greater responsibilities because they showed up. They're taking on more stress because they showed up. But at the same time, quality has gone down because people are feeling rushed or overwhelmed by the work that they're having to do. And because quality isn't what it used to be, more mistakes are happening in the workplace because of added stress and added duties. Now you're going to have more people getting sick or more injuries and more accidents that y'all. What I'm basically trying to paint a picture here is of this cycle that we're in. A horrible cycle that starts with this burnout that we just can't seem to get out of. And I just want to put this out there. At some point, when do we all say something's got to give? At what point do we recognize that there's such an emergency that the government gets involved and says, okay, we need better labor laws. We need to help our society and get this under handle, because clearly leaving it up to every organization or independent leader to do something isn't helping. Okay, because we also have to take responsibility in saying that, where did this great demand to work all these extra hours come from? Why did we make it okay? Why did we make it acceptable? Why is it now an expectation that you're answering emails within an hour or within 15 minutes? Okay. Perhaps, gosh, maybe I'm out of place thinking an hour. Why is it that we're expecting to hear back right away? When did we make that okay? At some point, we all had to agree. Not all agree necessarily, but also not saying anything, not making changes is also in a way being complicit, which is in a way also agreeing to a certain extent. But at some point, we have to say enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. We can't sustain this anymore. The long work hours, the expectation of always working, always being on. And if you are the CEO and president of your corporation and you're still expecting all of this, why? Why? You can have the greatest competitive advantage over other organizations. You can have the most superior workforce, but what does it matter if no one wants to show up to work? What does it matter if people are having heart attacks and dying at work or leaving work? What does it matter if you're not enhancing people's quality of life? I would rather sacrifice being number one as an organization and still being able to manage well and keep people's jobs and keep people satisfied and have better quality of life than to be the leader in an industry with a product or something. I mean, at some point, we have to say something has to change. And it's up to the executive leaders to do that. Otherwise, what happens? It is bottom up and you have strikes. You have the unions coming together and saying, enough is enough. We're going to change it because you can't come to that conclusion on your own that this needs to change. And it shouldn't take all that because you're not okay. And we know that people don't quit jobs, they quit managers. And so, for those of you who may not be executive leaders right away, but maybe that's something that you're pursuing, you need to understand this is a current situation with many executives. They're overwhelmed, they're tired, they're burnt out. Their personal life is suffering, their work life is suffering. They're not okay. They're not okay. And so that's why you're having to quit a manager or a leader, because in all honesty, they're not okay. And because they're not okay, it's difficult to help you be okay. And so that's the importance of the work that I do. This is why I am so passionate about helping executives to achieve alignment and balance in their life, because this is bigger than that one person. But it can start there. So when we're talking about balance, these are some words that come to mind. The first one is equilibrium. Equilibrium. Okay. Looking for balance in the environment is a word like homeostasis. It means that like everything is like in sync. It's together. There's a flow. Okay. Another word is equity, not equality. And we're going to get more into that in a second. But balance, we're not looking for things to be equal, but we are looking for them to be equitable. Okay, fair. Another word is stability. Balance produces stability. Okay, you're not afraid of loss. You're not afraid of something coming and tearing it down. Like, it's stable. Okay, there's not a threat of injury here, or pain or grief or hurt. And then it's steady. balance provides a steadiness, a strength, okay, that's dependable. And so that's what we're in need of. Again, not for all things to be equal, but certainly equitable from the standpoint of fair between work life and personal life. Okay. So here's a picture of these stones in balance. Okay. We see two rocks approximately the same size on either side that is well balanced. In our mind, this is what we think balance looks like. Okay, when we talk about balance, this is typically what comes to mind. But I want us to kind of rethink this a little bit and realize balance also looks like this. Okay, it also looks like, yes, it's being balanced, but it's not equal. You see that there are two rocks on one side, there's one rock on the other. They're not equal distance, okay? Because there's one thing over here, it's further away, versus two things on the left side, which is a shorter distance, okay? So this is also in balance. And my point here is that when we're dealing with balance, we need to realize that it can look different ways, that it's not always 1 to 1 or 2 to 2 or 3 to 3 or so on. Okay. But there's many different ways to achieve balance. But this is what we have to understand. Okay. Is that it's work personal life balance we need. A lot of people say work life balance. No, 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 no. That's not what we need. Because when you say work life balance, it's as if work and life are two separate entities, as if they're opposing dichotomies. It's not work or life. Work is your life. Just like what you do in your personal time is your life too. You have one life. And so what we're looking for is congruency here. Okay? Not the dichotomy that suggests that work adds no value to our lives or vice versa. Instead, alignment and balance of our work life and personal life, that's the goal. Okay? Because we do, whether we like it or not, we live at work too. We live at work too. We thrive at work too. We develop relationships. We seek purpose. We seek fulfillment and work too. We want to grow. We want to be promoted. All that at work too. We want to have good diets. We want to be fit. All at work too. Do we not? Okay. So we have one life and it's time for us to have that. I feel like a lot of times when people want to say, "Oh, this work, just do your job, just go home." That's a cop out. Especially, for those of us as leaders, we don't really have that that privilege of saying it's just this, it's just that, leave it there. And for people who aren't leaders, it might be difficult for them to understand that. And so if you have a spouse or significant other who is not in a leadership role or isn't an executive or doesn't kind of understand the pull that that role has on you, that can be very challenging to communicate, okay, to someone who doesn't understand. And I've come to n- know that people don't understand what they don't understand. It's not anything to get upset about, it's nothing to be offended with. People just don't understand what they don't understand. Empathy is important. Yes, we can develop our emotional intelligence for empathy and try to at least respect what people are saying their needs are. But again, people just don't understand what they don't understand. And so don't take it personally. when people don't. But that whole idea of it's just work, um, cut it off, yes, as best as you can. But let's be honest, with executive leadership, it's very difficult to do that. And so the reality is, and we talked about this yesterday in episode 1, is that you have one life. And you have your private and personal, and you have your work and professional. But what we're seeking is alignment of those, okay, for your whole life. Because the truth is, at the end of our life, God is going to judge you based on what you did with your whole life, not just your personal life, not just on how you loved your spouse and your children and who you cared for and how you donated money and gave and served. It won't just be that. It's going to also be about where you spent most of your waking hours. And that's at work. How did you treat people there? How did you make people feel? How did you lead people? Did you fulfill purpose in the workplace? Were you a witness in the workplace? You're going to be judged on that too. And so that's why it's important for us to create a life that is anchored in purpose, which is alignment, okay? And that will bring us fulfillment and rest. And that is what we can have. And so now let's talk about what are the components of, balance? What are the elements of that work personal life balance? Okay, and there's 7 that I have identified that I want to share with you today as we pursue a well-managed work personal life. Because that's ultimately what it's about. How do we manage balance? And when we manage balance, we can expect to see these 7 things. And if you don't see these 7 things, then that's an indicator that something is out of balance. Okay? So let's get to number 1. Number 1, there's alignment. Your work life is aligned with your purpose, and your personal life is aligned with your purpose. It's not one or the other. If you feel like you're fulfilling your calling and really living that out at work, but in your personal life, you don't experience that, when you leave work, that's when you're going to be experiencing those feelings of doubt, insecurity, depression, anxiety, because it's not fitting. It's not what you had the vision of your personal life being. And we know that purpose, right? It gives us that vision of what our life should look like. And when we see that manifest, that's where fulfillment comes. So if we don't see it in our personal life as well, then that means some things are out of balance. And so you need to get your personal life in alignment or vice versa. If you sense fulfillment and the anchor with your purpose and alignment with your purpose in your personal life, but not in your work life, out of balance. Okay, so that's one element that you want to make sure that you have on lock, that your work life and your personal life align with your purpose, your divine purpose, what you feel like you exist for, because you are here on purpose for a purpose. You are not a mistake. I don't care if your parents didn't plan you. Okay? I don't care if they didn't have intent. God had intent. You are here at this time in this generation for a specific purpose. Okay? And so you want to know that your work life and personal life are aligned with that. Number 2, rest. Do you have rest in your work life? Are there opportunities for you to take breaks? Not just vacation time, not just, your personally, but on a daily basis. Are you eating your lunch? Are you taking other small breaks to help you stay focused and rejuvenated and refreshed for what your day requires from you? That is important rest as well. We have to be intentional in exercising rest. Rest is not something you do you that means you do nothing. We have to exercise it. We have to practice it. We have to be intentional with it. And it's just as important for you to rest and sleep and all of that as it is for you to be up, being physical and exercise. Is there rest available in your personal life? Do you get to have, you know, an hour to yourself to kind of reflect and just have a moment to relax a bit? Do you get that one day? Do you get your Sabbath day, right? Of whatever the day that week that is. It may not be on Saturday, it may not be on Sunday, but do you get to have a day of intentional rest? That's important. And I said this yesterday. If rest is good enough for God, it is doggone good enough for us. And we definitely need it. Okay? Not that God necessarily needed to rest, but he sure wanted to. Yes, he did. On the seventh day, he rested, and we need to rest as well. Okay? So if you don't have rest in either your work or personal life, or should I say in both of them, you're out of balance. Number three, are you actively pursuing a set of goals with trackable progress? And this is productivity. Are you being productive? When you look at your work, like, are you seeing that, wow, you're working towards something. You're working towards that promotion. You're working towards achieving the goals that were set out in your performance review last year. Are you working towards building skills and enhancing skills? What about in your personal life? Are you learning, some new skills? Are you achieving your personal goals? Have you started that new program? Are you saving for that new car? Are you saving for the down payment on that house? It doesn't have to be these big, gigantic, massive things. It could just be, I'm productively writing a book I've been wanting to start. Are you being productive? Because let me tell you, that matters. And I'll share something personal with you. One of the things that I noticed with me is that being productive is a big part of my mental health. I have to be productive, not from a standpoint of busy, 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 but I love looking forward to something. It doesn't have to be quick, it doesn't have to be something really big, but it's just like, for me, having something to look forward to is important to me. And if we were honest, I think it's important to a lot of us. To spend a lot of time in seasons where nothing productive is happening. There's no expectation, there's nothing to look forward to, there's no hope of something. That's where anxiety and depression starts to kick in a lot of times. And so it's important to be productive, even on the smallest scale. It could be working on a puzzle that has, I was gonna say a million pieces, okay, that's exaggerating, but could have several hundred pieces, but just something that you're continuously working on can do a lot of good for you, okay? So that's productivity. You need it in both your work life and your personal life. Peace. Yes, peace. And by peace, not so much the absence of conflict, but it's the absence of chronic conflict. Like, you're not waking up every day in conflict. That's not good. That's not healthy. And that you're out of balance. But you need a sense of peace in your work life, and you need a sense of peace in your personal life. And if you don't have that, what steps are you taking to achieve that? Is it a crucial conversation that you need to have? Is it, you know, removing yourself or removing someone, you know, from your life or a toxic relationship? Is it um, the fact that you just really don't like the community service that you're doing and you want to find something better? Whatever that is that's not giving you peace, what are you doing about it? Because peace is an indicator that you have balance. Stability. This is important. And I think that coming through the pandemic, we've learned to appreciate stability even more than we have before. And that is the capacity and grace to endure without fear of loss. Without fear of loss. Um, One of the things I learned during the pandemic is that we probably all experience a false sense of security and stability at times. My stability is rooted in my faith and knowing that God's got me and that I'll always have what I need. One way or the other, I know God was going to provide. It's not in that job, it's not in my skill set, it's not in all that, but I know that those are tools that God has given me to help me to remain, I guess, stable in a way and have the things that I need, being able to do work and so on. But at the end of the day, I know that God is my source. But for those of you who don't have a sense of stability rooted in faith, the balance that you're looking for is still that sense of that ability to endure a challenge without fear of losing your job, without fear of losing your position, right? You don't fear losing um, support from team members. That means do you have some stability and you have balance in your work life. In your personal life, you don't fear losing your house. You don't fear losing a relationship. You don't fear losing someone's love or respect because of what's going on, right? Or you don't fear losing a position um, in some of the activities that you have or do. So that's important and definitely a strong indicator of balance in your work and personal life. Okay. All right. Number six, satisfaction. Satisfaction is a big deal, y'all. We're talking about not so much I'm extremely happy, I'm like overjoyed, like nothing like that, but just a sense of I'm happy, I'm content. Like I find enjoyment in what I do. I look forward to the projects and the initiatives and the programs that we're starting. Yes, it's challenging, but it's something that I'll enjoy doing. Like I'm a builder. I love to build programs and things like that. It's very challenging. But in that moment, I'm like, this is so cool. This is a lot of work. But wow, we're starting a program. Wow, we're starting a new initiative. Wow, we're tightening some things up. This is a new curriculum that's going to help people. I find enjoyment in that. And so you want to have, that satisfaction in your work life, but also in your personal life. Do you enjoy, do you have a sense of satisfaction and enjoyment from, your friendships, your family interactions, the hobbies that you have, the things that you're learning, the new skills that you're kind of seeking out, maybe in sports that you play? Where do you find that sense of enjoyment and satisfaction? That's important to think about. And if you don't have that, you're out of balance. You can't just have enjoyment at work. You need it in your personal life too. What would that enjoyment look like? Okay, sign up for that class. Make those connections. Go visit that place. If there's make that bucket list and and start making progress towards achieving and doing some of the things on your bucket list for your satisfaction. Okay. And then number seven, growth. Growth is so important. And not just from a developmental aspect of education or, new certifications and things like that, but just overall wellness, your holistic wellness, and prosperity in your work life and in your personal life. In last month's series, we talked about the 12 dimensions of wellness. I'm not even going to pretend like I could just name them all off at the top. But one of the things that has been recently added to the dimensions of wellness outside of, okay, here I go, physical, mental, social, emotional, occupational, intellectual, creative, cultural, aesthetics. That's the one I added. Oh, I'm missing some. Oh, environmental, financial, and there's one more. Spiritual, of course. Yeah, spiritual. Okay, so those are the 12. I did name them. I'm surprised. But all those dimensions of wellness, that's what we want to see growth and prosperity in, not just physical, not just financial, but in every aspect and area of the work life and personal life. So that's how we can know if there's balance, okay, in our work life and our personal life. So hear them all together. Now, this is what we have to understand is that when an element is lacking in, let's say, your work life, it's going to affect your personal life. I would love to think that we're all superhuman and we could do this so well that it's like, nope, compartmentalized, boom, boom, boom. This is this and that. When you're stressed out at work, when you've had a bad day, when you've spent all day feeling disrespected, and not seen, not heard, in your personal life, you're much more hypersensitive to how people treat you. And you're probably much more defensive and offended regarding how people talk to you in ways that maybe sometimes you jump the gun a little bit sooner, or you make assumptions based on people's thoughts simply because of how you're treated most of the day at work, which is not okay. I don't advocate for that at all. But my point here is that it does affect your work life, and your work life does affect your personal life. When you're not satisfied personally in your personal life, maybe it's in your relationships, maybe you're single and don't have that that committed relationship that you want. Well, what happens is that people tend to start working more hours or putting more time into work, but then next thing you know, they're burnt out, they're overwhelmed, they're tired. And then when it comes to their personal life, they can't find that committed relationship. They can't start dating because they're too tired. They're over it. Or you've conditioned people at work to expect so much from you that now it's difficult to pull back. Okay. And I know that that's especially for single women. And I'm speaking to, women like me who were in our late 30s, early 40s. You're single, you're an executive, you're putting in so much, so much, so much, and you're saying, I want a relationship, I want this, I want that. Well, how are you making time for that relationship? And this is to the men too. If you want your executive leadership role, you want to thrive, yes, but you also say you want a committed relationship. How are you making time for it? You gotta have balance for the things that you desire. And, it can be challenging, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You just have to be intentional about it. Okay. Growth. Let's say for those of you personally, you're pursuing, oh gosh, a PhD like I did. That is, if you are thinking about pursuing a PhD, I'm telling you, pray about it because it can be a really daunting and trying and overwhelming, highly stressful season of your life that is going to last, a minimum of, I think there are a lot of 3-year programs coming out now, which is incredible. But let's say all the way up to maybe even 10 years, depending on what kind of program you're doing. That is a long time especially for those people who are having to work too, as I did. I worked full time while pursuing a PhD. That's a long time to be frustrated, overwhelmed, feeling burnt out, feeling like there's not enough time in the day, not really having the time and energy to invest in relationships. That's a lot. That's a lot. And then if you're also running a company, if you're also, you know, in this executive leadership role, how much you're having to give at work as well. Your work life will suffer because you have a lot going on in the, personal realm. So, and I'm not going to say it will suffer. I'm not going to say that. But there are definitely changes that need to be made to ensure that there is balance. There's a crucial conversation that needs to happen with your supervisor. Or if you are the CEO and president, then you need to have crucial conversations with your subordinates, the other executive leaders, okay, the others in C-suite, to ensure that they understand, you know, what is going on and some changes that may need to be made temporarily. So, my point is, in that situation, you can still achieve balance. Even when one area of your life is pulling so much out of you. But by having, you know, important conversations, and I'm gonna get to this right here because I'm getting ahead of myself. By praying and asking God for guidance, you can achieve balance, but you can't do it on your own and within your own wisdom. Please pull on God's. Respect your calendar. When you're trying to do this with your between personal and work life, manage your time well and plan around important dates. And I'm saying important dates like, you know graduations of your children, marriages, those moments of life that you can't get back. I was reading an article about how so many people felt like they had given so much to their work life and sacrificed so much of their personal life that they missed monumental moments in their children's and loved ones' lives. Why? Why? And at the end of the day, it won't be worth it. Now, to some, it might be. And I look at Pastor T.D. Jakes, and I love hearing his daughter saying, now when I look back and I see the times you weren't there, I see how you were pouring into the ministry. I see how when you couldn't be here and when you couldn't be there, what it was all about. I didn't understand it then, but we understand it now. Well, you pray you get to the moments that people understand, right? We don't always get there. And so you have to understand from your own life and perspective what is acceptable to you and what isn't. Okay. Prioritize your priorities. We all have priorities, but some priorities are more important than others. And that's based on your scope, time, and capital. Is this even for you to do, or is it within someone else's role and responsibilities? Is this the right time to do it? Is this, the time of the essence? Like you have to get it done right now. When you were talking about capital, we're not just talking about limited money, but we're talking about limited people, right? Limited technology, limited skills or knowledge about something. So that's how you determine what's a priority, by how well you manage those three constraints. But then also be present. When you're at work, be present so that you can do as much as you can so that when you go home or you're in your personal life or you've left the office or you've left that office in your home, right? If you're working from home, Be present in the moment. Practice mindfulness from the standpoint, take it all in. Take it all in as much as possible. And I know that is not always as simple to do, and it does require that you communicate clearly with your loved ones, being able to do this. But the point here is to limit distractions in the moment as much as possible so that you can take in everything that's happening right then and there so that you can be focused and give, I won't say 100% because we never give 100. We love to say that that's cute, but if people in the moment get 60% of you, they're doing good. Okay, because our minds are always wondering. We're always doing so many things. So if they get 60% of you, I think that's great. Um, but you got to communicate clearly with your loved ones. You got to let people know what you need. Um, in order for them to support you. Okay? Because it's time to balance your work life and personal life so that you can experience what? Fulfillment and rest. And that's what God intends for you. Okay? And so, this is the last thing I want us to understand is that the goal of work personal life balance is not for all things to be equal. Think back to that picture. It's not for there to be two on one side and two on the other side, okay? But rather understanding that distances and different weights, right? And how you maneuver those items can achieve balance. So again, the goal of work personal life balance is not for all things to be equal, but rather for all things to be fair, depending on what your work life and personal life demands of you at any given time. Only you and your life partner, for those of you who are married, because you're not living this life on your own. You've committed to having a life partner. So you need to make these decisions and talk about these things together. But if you're single, it's only you. But for those of you who are married, you have a life partner. Only you or you two can determine and define what that is, what that work personal life balance looks like. Okay. It's not black and white. It's not all things being equal, but all things being equitable. Okay, for what your life demands of you right now. So, y'all, that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts, your comments. I pray that this episode was a blessing to you and definitely is helping you rethink some things regarding balance and how you are going to achieve, how you're going to determine and define what true work personal life balance is for you. And that is my prayer that you're able to achieve today. Okay. Join me tomorrow for episode 3, the last episode in this series, as we talk about the grace of knowing what season you're in. And when I talked about knowing what your work life and your personal life requires of you right now, that's seasons. And we have different seasons of life. And so to know what season of life you're in, that's your grace, that's your power. Okay. And it's an incredible way of helping you to achieve what it is that you need to achieve with the time you have to achieve it. Okay. So I love this episode. This is such a blessing to me as well as I go and assess the balance structures and the elements of my work and personal life as well. So, y'all, that's it today. I pray that you have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, in everything you do and with everything you have, love God and love people. Goodbye.